Assalamu alaikum dear students. In the series of learning C programming, we are discussing dynamic memory allocation in C. In the previous video, we have discussed what is calloc function and what is the difference between the calloc and malloc function. Everything regarding calloc function have been discussed very minutely with the help of the program in the previous video. So in today's video, we are going to discuss one more function, dynamic memory allocation function, that is the realloc function. In today's video, we will discuss what is realloc function, why do we use realloc function, and what is the syntax of realloc function, and what is the scene behind when we use the realloc function. Everything regarding minutely. We can see every small detail regarding the realloc function will be discussed in today's video with the help of the program. So our today's topic is realloc function. First of all, realloc function, the full form of realloc function is the reallocation of memory. Reallocation of memory. Full form of realloc function is the reallocation of the memory. This function is used to reallocate the memory which have previously allocated by using the malloc or the calloc function. Or we can say the realloc function is used to reallocate the memory which has been allocated dynamically. And reallocation, that means we can use this realloc function for resize. We can say in resize. That means either increase or decrease. So realloc function is the dynamic memory allocation function which is used to resize the memory that have been previously allocated by using either malloc function or calloc function. That means we can increase or decrease the memory previously allocated dynamically by using this realloc function. One thing we must take in mind that realloc function is used only to reallocate the memory which have been allocated previously by using the malloc or the calloc function. If we use this realloc function for relocating the memory which has not been allocated dynamically, it will show us some undefined behavior. At that time, it will show some undefined behavior. It must keep in our mind when we use this realloc function. And third, realloc function is defined in the header file stdlib.h. This realloc function is the inbuilt function which is defined in the header file st.lib.h as other two functions which we have already discussed, malloc and calloc function. Those two functions are also defined in the header file stdlib.h. So we can say that this realloc function is used for reallocating the memory that have been previously allocated by using the malloc or the calloc function. And one more important thing which we must remember is that this realloc memory reallocates the memory or it increases the memory dynamically which have been previously allocated without losing the previous content. That means whatever the content you have previously stored in that memory, that remains safe. So this is one of the most important. It reallocates the memory, the dynamically allocated memory, you can say dynamically allocated memory without losing the previous content. This is one of the most advantages of this reallocation function. In short, now we have understood that what is realloc function? Realloc function, the full form of the realloc function, the reallocation of memory, or you can say it can resize the memory which are previously allocated by malloc or calloc or dynamically. That we can increase that memory or we can decrease that memory as per our programming need. And second one, the third point is that this realloc function is also defined in the header file stdlib.h, and one of the most important advantage of this reallocation memory is that it reallocates the dynamically allotted memory without losing the previous content. That whatsoever the content have previously stored in that memory remains safe. Now we will see what is the syntax of this realloc function. General syntax, can we say? General syntax. General syntax. General syntax of realloc memory. First, we can simply write here realloc. And this realloc function takes two arguments. As we have discussed in previous video, that malloc function takes only one argument and calloc function takes two arguments. This realloc function takes two arguments. First argument is the previous pointer. We can say the pointer which have been returned when memory has dynamically allocated previously. That is previous pointer. We can say here while pointer, in other words, while pointer. And second argument that this realloc function takes is the new size. New size. We can say new size. For example, that is it. This is the syntax. Realloc, or we can say it takes two arguments, the previous pointer. For example, if previously with the malloc function, this is our heap portion, and previously by using malloc function, I have allocated memory, I have requested for 5 integers, or for example memory of 100 bytes. For example, I have requested previously for the memory of, here I will write here, malloc, simple I will write 800. Here I have requested for 100 bytes of memory previously by using malloc function here, and now, and obviously it will first byte, second byte, third byte, fourth byte, block of 100 bytes. Obviously, for example, if 1000 is the address of the first byte, or we can say the base address of this memory block, and PTR is the pointer, so it will return the address of the first byte, that means 100. 100 is going to be stored in PTR. Okay, now for example later, now here PTR is the pointer which points to the first location, which points to the first byte of this memory block, or we can say PTR stores the base address of this memory block, which we have already discussed it many times in the previous videos. So that means PTR, here we write PTR, and new size. For example, now when I am going to write a program, I want, instead of 100 bytes, I want 400 bytes for a program, size 400. So here I can write simply 400. There is new size, what size I want to allocate that. And second one, first is the pointer. And what it is going to be returned. Return type. Return type of malloc is the while pointer. This is the general syntax. General syntax of realloc function. Realloc is the name of the function, we can say, and it takes two arguments. First is the while pointer, that is previous pointer. Second is the new size. And the return type of this realloc function is the while pointer. We can later typecast this while pointer to any other pointer, such as int pointer, integer pointer, character pointer, float pointer, according to our programming need. Right? Okay. So this is the general syntax of realloc function. Now here, for example, this is our heap part. As I have already just told you that dynamically the memory is going to be allocated from the heap portion, not from the static. The static variables, for static variables, the memory is going to be allocated from the state, whereas dynamically the memory is going to be allocated from the heap portion of the memory. So here I will write, for example, a small program, void man, later on, and I want to store integer pointer here, and n is the how many, that means we can say number of the elements I want to store in the dynamically memory allocated memory. So dynamically allocated, memory allocated space, and I for example loop. Printf enter the limit. That means how many elements I want to store, for how many elements I want to allocate the memory dynamically. I want the memory. Here ptr equal to 8 pointer malloc. Here I am going to use the malloc function. We know that malloc function takes only one argument, that means n into size of int, and that is it. For example, enter the limit n, scanner. Here I am going to read it, %t address of n. For example, I want the memory for 3 integers. So here n is 3. Similarly, n 3 into size of int. The size of int is either 4 or 2 bytes. In some machines, the integer occupies 4 bytes of the memory, whereas in some machines it occupies 2 bytes of memory, depending upon the compiler. And I am assuming that the machine which I am using occupies 4 bytes of the memory. So here, the total of 4 into, I want to store 3 integers, the 4 into 3, 12 bytes. A complete block of 12 bytes of memory will be allocated by the memory manager dynamically by using this malloc function here. And it will return a pointer. For example, the base address of this is 2000. It will return this 2000, and that will go stored in here, ptr. That means this ptr contains the base address of this memory block. Good, total of, that means total of 12 bytes of the memory will be allocated by the memory manager by using this function. By using this, for example, here I have stored 3 integers because I want to store 3 numbers here. 3 n is 3, that means 3 integers I want to store. That, for example, 1, 2, and 3. I have stored here 1, 2, and 3 integers. The memory which is allocated by dynamically by the compiler is by using this malloc function is 12 bytes. 1, that means 3 into size of int. We know size of int is 4. 4 into 3 equal to 12. 12 bytes of the memory will be allocated dynamically, and ptr, and it will return the address, base address, that is the 2000, and that is going to be stored in ptr. Now this ptr contains 2000, and through this ptr we can access these elements. For example, the elements which I have stored here are 1, 2, 3, suppose. Okay. Now, later in the program, now I want to resize it. I want, instead of 3 integers, for example, printf, I want to modify the size. Enter new size, for example, or you can say new number. How many? Modified number. Second, percentage the address of n. Now, instead of 3, I want now 5 integers. I want to modify the size, increase the size. Now, how I can? For that, we can use the realloc function. Because realloc function is used to reallocate the memory, resize the memory. We can increase or decrease the memory which is previously allocated by using this malloc or a calloc function without losing the previous content. Now, how can I, here I will, for example, here I will write simply int pointer. Instead of malloc, I will write here realloc. And it takes two arguments. First is the previous point. Here, in this case, the previous pointer is the PTR. Simply, I will write here PTR. And second argument is the new size. What is the new size? 5. Because instead of 2, I want 3, I want now 5 integers. That means now 5 into 4 into 5, that means 20 bytes of the memory will be allocated to a block of 20 bytes. That means new size is 5. That I can write here simply n into size of int. Okay, because now the size is 5. It has been modified. Previously it was 3, now it is 5, right? Okay. Now, with this, it will return the base address also. It will return the base that is going to store in a PTR. I can use this PTR, same pointer, or I can use a new pointer here. I will here, for example, declare another pointer PTR1. I can use either the previous pointer to store the address that has been returned by this realloc function, or I can use a new pointer as well. Here I am using a new pointer PTR, which I have here declared here PTR and PTR1 and the pointer. Now what would this realloc function do? What would happen behind the scene? Behind the scene, this realloc function will modify this size, either if possible. The previous, it will modify, it will increase, it will append, it will increase the previous size, this previous block, which have been previously allocated dynamically. It will modify that if possible. That means, what does that mean? For example, it will modify here 2 other integers, and I will store here for 6 and 7. Okay. It is possibility that it will either it will modify the same block which has been previously allocated, or it can allocate a new block. For example, I will show here. Previously, here it is the 2000, for example, here is 2000, 1, 2 and 3. Previously, I have requested for 3 space for 3 integers. Okay, 1, 2, and now I want to modify that. Instead of 3, I want now 5. But here is the memory constraint, because the memory constraint, for example, this heap memory is the end of this heap memory. It cannot append here. It's not possible to increase this memory. Now, what would this realloc do? It will allocate new block of memory somewhere else. For example, it will allocate new block of memory somewhere else. For example, here, and will copy the contents. First, it will copy the contents of this block, that will be 1, 2, and 3, and it will allocate a new block of memory dynamically, that is 5 for 5 integers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And will copy the previous content, 1, 2, 3, and will then deallocate this memory. Or you can say it will see this memory, previously allocated block, and will return the new address. That is, new address, for example, the address of this is PTR, and it will return the new address. For example, it has 2000, for suppose this have 3000, and it will return this 3000 here. It will sit over here, PTR1, and I can use this PTR1 for this, for example, 2000, and new PTR1 is a 3000. Okay, in this way, the previous content does not get lost, remains same. So, what does this reallocation function does? It modifies the previous block which has previously allocated dynamically using a malloc or a calloc function. If possible, it can modify, it can increase that size. Or, if there is some memory constraint, it will allocate new block, a fresh block, and will copy the contents of previous block in the fresh block, and then after that it will deallocate that memory, it will free that memory, and will then return the address of the new block. Here the address of the new block is 2000. Now we saw here that the content, whether it will allocate new block or it will modify the previous block of memory, the content always remains same. The data remains always same. Data does not get lost. It is sure. It is not sure whether it has allocated new block of memory or it have modified or increased the previous block of memory. It's not sure. But one thing is sure, that data always remains same in realloc function. Okay, this is a main advantage of this realloc function. We can also see whether it has allocated the new block or it has increased it, it has modified the previous block. Take care. For example, if we here write simply printf percentage d ptr and ptr1. Simply, it will print ptr if it has modified the previously block, it has increased the size of the previous. It will also be 2000, and here it will also be 2000. Both ptr1 and ptr2 will contain the same address. That means it has modified the previously allocated memory. It has increased that memory. But if it has allocated new block of memory, then the first pointer will contain the previous address 2000 and second pointer ptr1 will contain the 3000. That means it has allocated new. We can also check that thing as well by using this printf line. Okay. Right. Now, simply we can, but if here in this case, for example 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 5, I have entered two other values 4 and 5 here. For example, if I have previously I have requested for the memory for 3 integers, size of int 3. I want to store the 3 value. Now I want 2 value. I have decreased the previous size. That means here instead of 5, here it is 2. Then only 3 into 2, 8 bytes of the memory will allocate. By this will reallocate by this realloc function. Obviously, by decreasing the size, that some data lost, this 3 will get lost. It is common. It is understandable. By decreasing the size, we will lose some data. But if we increase the size, the data does not get lost. The data always remains the same. The previous content always remains the same. So it increases the size of the memory without losing the previous data. This is one of the most important things which we must keep in mind while using this realloc function. Next thing that we have to keep in mind regarding this realloc function is that, for example, if this realloc function, due to some reasons or due to some memory constraints, fails to modify increase the previously allocated memory. If due to some reason it fails to reallocate the memory, it will at that time it will return null. That means if here this pointer will return null. So we can also check if ptr equal to null, then that means here ptr1, that means error. That means it can print error. That means due to some reasons the realloc function fails to reallocate the function, modify the function, increase the size or decrease the size of the previous size. And if it successfully reallocates, if it succeeds, then it will return the address of the first byte. I now hope that you have now fully understood what is realloc function, why do we use a realloc function, what is the syntax of the realloc function, and what is the advantage of the realloc function, and how the realloc function is going to be used in the program. We can use realloc function both in case of malloc function as well. We are both when the memory is allocated using malloc or a calloc function, only of the two functions. Or we can say we can use this realloc function only in those cases where memory has been allocated dynamically. Otherwise, it will show us some undefined behavior. Now I hope that you have understood the concept of this realloc function fully. And inshallah, in the next video, we are going to discuss one more deallocation function. We can say a deallocation function, that is the free function. Till next video, take care. Bye bye.